I cannot stand Mr. Baseball.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
I knew it.
Here we go.
Yeah, I tried to throw a little bit back.
Love that logo, love that jersey, love that color scheme, everything about it.
Welcome back for the second half. Baseball video games. Figured might as well start of MLB 23, MLB 2003. Let's do baseball video games.
Yeah, and what we were talking about off the air is maybe making this kind of like a recurring segment, because we're going to start with some 8-bit baseball games. So we'll probably do some 90s 16-bit, and we'll work our way up to now. How's that?
There you go. There's plenty of games in between.
Oh, I know.
Plenty of games. Especially...
And at one point, everyone and their mom had a game, too.
Jeez. And the fact that the first one was one of my favorites, RBI Baseball.
So we grew up on RBI Baseball, starting with the NES, and it moved on with the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. But I thought it was really cool that they brought it back in 2014.
I mean, I've always played it for NES. I always played it for the Nintendo just because of just the nostalgia of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so funny when you hit a fly ball, the opposing team was just like, you knew you were out right away. If it wasn't a home run, it'd be you knew you were out.
I think we definitely have to hit on the fact that a lot of these Nintendo era games, these 8-bit games, Nintendo, Genesis, whatever, or not Genesis, Sega Master System, you had to field the ball. You had to.
Yeah.
And the fielding sucks on these games.
And that's putting it lightly. And the fact that this is 8-bit, and if you weren't like literally right on top of the ball, it was going right by you.
Yeah.
That was the worst part of fielding it too. I mean,
and everyone moves so slow.
Slow is an understatement. Slow is an extreme understatement on that one. I always found it funny with RBI Baseball that when you were pitching, you always found that niche for strikeouts constantly.
Oh yeah.
You always found that little sweet spot. Almost like not a cheat code, but like a glitch almost.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. What was interesting with RBI Baseball, and it kind of translates to a few of the other games that we're going to talk about, is figuring out that the D-pad was what was used to determine your pitches. So, like, if you held the down button down, you were going to throw a fastball. If you held it up, you were going to throw a changeup. There was so much more strategy involved with these games. And let's not ignore the fact that the first RBI Baseball only had a few teams on it. It was not every MLB team.
No, it was not.
And it wasn't even an MLB game. It was originally the MLB Players Union. It was through the Players Union that game was done. So it used the names in the cities, but not the team name.
Yeah.
So you could play as. Yeah, go ahead.
I think a lot of games at that time did that. Like you had the Philadelphia something. It was never the Phillies, but it was always something. Oh. Not the Chicago White Sox, but it was the Chicago, not Cubs, but Chicago something.
There's a game.
It was never the actual pro team of the city.
There's a game, and we'll get into it when we do 16-bit games, but there's a game for the Genesis where they basically used the Phillies logo for a non-Phillies team. It is amazing how much of a ripoff the logo is for the Philly team in this game. That's all I'll say. It blew me away the first time I saw it.
That's funny.
I think RBI Baseball is kind of like the benchmark for 8-bit video games for baseball.
I was
So
gonna say
much
just for
so.
in general, because it came back out in not 87.
So I don't know if you've ever seen this. Someone recreated Bill Buckner's mistake from the 86 World Series in RBI Baseball. They did that entire inning
I have not.
before and after in RBI Baseball. It is amazing.
I will have to look
They
that
even
up now.
synced it up with the audio of the game.
No, really?
Yes.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, RBI Baseball was the benchmark. That was the big benchmark for baseball games in general, I feel, anyways, just because of what it was. So I don't know how many times that I've played just numerous nights just playing on on the NES, just playing baseball, playing RBI Baseball, whether it be any of them, really. So I know RBI Baseball 1, 2, and 3 were for the NES, and then in '92 was RBI Baseball 4 for Sega Genesis, and then it went on to Sega for a couple of years.
Why don't we let's jump to another one on the list, because it wasn't quite an MLB game because they used not quite MLB player names. I don't know if you've ever played it, but it's one of my personal favorites is Bo Jackson Baseball. And the reason I want to get to this one is because all the other ones after this have like fake teams. So I kind of want to, this is kind of like the bridge. I got this for Christmas 1991.
I have a feeling I did play it, but I don't remember. I have a feeling I did, though.
I'm a big fan of this game for a few reasons, other than obviously it's the one I played the most for the NES because I owned it, but also because there were cutscenes. So, like, if there was a close play at the plate, you'd have a cutscene of the manager and the ump arguing. If Bo Jackson struck out, there'd be a cutscene of him breaking the bat over his knee. You'd have replays of home runs and close catches. It was a really cool game. But what I always loved when playing my beloved Philadelphia baseball team, because they were not the Phillies in the game, was that I could play as John Crunk. Or Lenny Danjor.
I love how they came up with all those different types of names.
Or you could play as Cal Kenrip for the Baltimore Orioles.
I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia, and it just Kenrip, resembling Cal Ripken.
I thought, even as a kid, that cracked me up. I don't want to. It's John Kruk. Why is it Crunk? Because as a kid, I didn't realize it. It wasn't affiliate MLB, but it was a really fun game. It's so under the radar, I think, that I don't know a lot of people who've actually played it. But if you have an emulator or a retro gaming device, give it a try. It's a lot of fun. I think the pitching system's real easy. The batting system was weird. So like we talked about with RBI Baseball is how you could use the D-pad to control your pitches. And Bo Jackson Baseball, you can do the same thing with your batting. So like if you hit the down button when you bat, it's going to be a contact hit. If you hit the up button, it's going to be a power hit. Left button is a bunt to here. And it was really cool. Like it gave you options. And there wasn't a lot of bunting in MLB games or baseball games
No,
for
there
the
wasn't.
NES. So it was pretty cool that Bo Jackson Baseball had that in there.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. Now you say that. No, there wasn't. There wasn't a lot of bunting in general. It was always a swing, a swing thing.
Going for the fences.
Yeah, it was never a just bunt just to get on base or just to get to move a player to to another base. It was never that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, part of me says I have played it, but I'm not 100% sure.
I would not doubt if Primetime had it as part of their NES rentals.
Prime time. That's going back.
Well, let's go way back. I remember when it was Snowdies.
Oh, jeez.
Ah!
Oh. Yeah, wow. Yeah, that is going back. Those are video game rentals in our area that we were always walking into trying to find something for the night.
I drive by that building to take Gianna to softball. That's all I think of it as. The original building. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. Not the one that's a photography place now. The original building.
Yeah. Oh man, I can just see it in my head. Primetime was always you could get a game or a movie and get ice cream in the back.
Yeah, right.
Hell, they actually had Hershey Bears up there a couple of times too.
I remember you saying.
Yeah, because I got a couple of autographs from up there already. Oh, video game rentals. You don't see that anymore.
Oh, no one is. Oh, what was that? GameFly? Is that even a thing anymore?
I don't know. Because I was actually thinking of that the other day. Like, is that an actual thing? Because you don't see, Netflix anymore to do DVDs. You don't really hear about it anymore.
Yeah.
GameFly is still a thing.
I'll be damned.
You can start a free trial if you would like. Buy consoles, controllers, arcades, new games, and game collectibles.
All right. Well, let's move on to
of course nothing.
Stars.
Of course, nothing to older games, of course, which kind of sucks, but expected. Yeah, I'm on GameFly right now just to see what they actually have.
Hey, I told you off the air where you can get a fully loaded retro console. So,
well, yeah, anywhere really.
And these ones run on Android, just so you know. They're not running on Linux. So it's stable.
Interesting.
That's my only complaint about a Pi-based product is it runs on Linux and it's not.
It's all hit or miss.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Linux. But going back down the retro highway here, let's go to Baseball Stars. I know a lot of people love Baseball Stars.
I don't think I've played this one.
I'm not a fan. And there's things about Baseball Stars I like. I'm a big fan of these, and it's something that we haven't seen in years. I love the sports games that have like made up teams. There's something endearing about that to me. And Baseball Stars is one of them. There's the American Dreams, and you can play as Pete or Hank or Babe, and your pitcher Cy. Like, who all those players are based on.
Yeah.
But then they'll play against the ghastly monsters who are like Frank and Vlad and the Mummy. Like, that's funny and fun to me. And that was always something I liked as a kid. But I'm not a Baseball Stars fan. And part of that is because I didn't play Baseball Stars, like this specific version, as a kid. I played the arcade version, and the arcade version was really cool compared to the NES version.
Well, think of this. A lot of times when you played an arcade game and then played it on a console, it just wasn't the same. Because
But
there was something different that made it one from another.
I legitimately know a lot of people who like Baseball Stars, though, and that's kind of rare for a later Nintendo game.
I don't think I've ever played this one. I mean, I played a lot of Nintendo games, but I don't remember ever playing this one.
Like Tori from the Philly Baseball Together podcast, he's a big fan of it. I was telling my sister about these RetroCon, like the ones I was telling you about, and her former coworker at her old job said to her, he goes, "Does it have Baseball Stars on it?"
Jeez.
I'm like, well, it has a devoted fan base.
Well, it was probably one of those games to where it was one of those odd games that got that fan base, that got that cult following.
Yeah.
That you just never expected to get. Might have been one of those types.
Yeah, I mean I just think it's really interesting because I never looked at it as one of those games, but it has a cult following, and that's awesome. I mean, that's the fun of retro gaming, is you have pockets of people who love it.
Yeah, I've never played it that I can remember. But
moving on, let's go to Baseball Simulator 1000. I know this one kind of jogged a little bit of a memory to you off the air because you did mention I hadn't thought about that in years.
Yeah, again, well, a lot of these games, I mean, that you look up like what was it at that time. It's like, whoa, right, that was a game, right? Because you haven't played for so long. It's been so long since you even thought of it in general. I mean, the first one came out in '89. At that point, I was only 6.
There was a Super Baseball Simulator 1000.
Yeah, that came out in '91 for the Super NES.
And it's on the Switch right now. You can play it on the Switch.
Oh, jeez. Same graphics?
It's the Super NES one, but yeah, it's exact same graphics as.
Nice.
So I really love this game, and I love it because your pitchers and batters can have special powers. I think it's such a funny concept. Like you can throw a ball that on the screen looks like it's splintered into 5 other baseballs. And I remember when I first got into retro gaming in high school. I knew someone who made me a disc of retro games that I would play at study hall, and other people would burn this game. And there was like there might have been like 10 of us senior year who had kept stats for Baseball Simulator 1000 on whose teams were doing what. Because there was a bunch of us who were just playing it every day at study hall. Yeah, what are you guys doing?
Oh, jeez.
I haven't done that voice in ages. I don't even sound like the guy anymore. And yeah, no, I can't do it anymore. It's gone.
Anywho.
But I'm a big fan of Baseball Simulator 1000. That was a fun game. I think the Ultra Powers, I guess is what it's called. I think those were a really fun addition to the game. And
when you can have stuff like that, I mean, it's just it's for fun. I mean, I know some people when they play video games, they get real, like especially sports ones, they get too serious about it. But when you have fun stuff like that, that's what makes it.
And look, I'm a nerd, and I admit it. I really get a kick out of like you can pick how the stadium looks.
Ooh. I wish they'd bring that back in a lot of games.
So like if you pick the Harbor Stadium and you hit a home run, it's going into the water. You pick the the dome one, and you hit a pop fly and you see the dome, and like it's little. It's the same crowd design in every stadium, but there's just it's a little thing that makes it just different enough that you remember it, and you remember that that's an option.
They should bring all that in a lot of sports back. Like you can design your own arena, your own stadium. That would be cool to do. Like you can design the layouts. You can design just how, if you hit a home run, what happens. Things like that.
I will say this, and it's WrestleMania weekend. The WWE games that Take-Two and formerly THQ did, they had a creator arena aspect to the game where you could pick the size of the arena. You could, you did everything. You designed the entranceway. You did the rope colors. You did the apron around the ring, what the mat looked like, how the commentary table looked like, what the guardrails were. You could do a small arena. You could do a gigantic stadium. I could do hours just doing that.
I could spend hours just creating one character. You could spend hours creating one character.
Well, no one has anything on Jamie. Jamie has made spot-on versions of people we know on these games. She is amazing at create a character. I'm not even kidding.
That's funny. Now imagine if that was building a stadium.
Oh, that's why I had to talk about WWE having to build an arena. Like you could do all that stuff.
But I'm just saying, like, the thing about that was something now, like in a lot of sports games now, that you could do that with, like the wrestling video games, the MLB video games. Hell, think about if you could do the NHL ones, just for the different. Hell, think about this: if you can, for the golf games, think of you can design your own course.
I ain't got time for that. But I will say this. So
you'll spend a year just designing a course. I would too, just because it'd be fun.
What if they're going to do it? There needs to be a base setup. Like you have to pick like a retro stadium or a modern stadium or a big bowl stadium like we grew up with in the 80s and 90s. And then you design it based on that base structure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if it's an 80s structure, you got all these 80s stuff to customize it with.
Right. Well, you can do modern stuff with it too. If you want to do a modern multi-purpose stadium like the Vet, that's fine. But like you have to pick the original base design first and then build from there.
Yeah.
Which is what they do in the create arena mode in the WWE games. Could you imagine that, like you said, for an NHL game or an NBA game, where like you can pick a classic arena? Let's say you want to make your arena look like
the old Hershey Arena,
Garden. Old Hershey Arena, or what was it? The Chicago was it Chicago Stadium that the Blackhawks and the Bulls played at? Or the old Madison Square Garden, if you want to do the Barclays Center Wells Fargo. I almost said Wachovia.
Wow, you're going back.
I was on a roll.
If you could do, or hell, the Spectrum.
Yeah, you could do it with an NFL game. You could do Lincoln Financial or Heinz Field, or you could do Three Rivers or the Vet. But it's stuff like this that I think a lot of the sports games, EA, are missing out on because they focus so much on the gameplay and less on some of the things that could keep people wanting to play outside of the game.
Yes, gameplay is important because you don't want to, like let's say for hockey in general or, whatever, let's say in football, you throw a pass, it goes literally through the person. Or, you got to make it to where, nowadays they want to make it to as realistic as possible with how players can do certain moves and things like that today, that I don't think, like you said, they're missing out on what they could have. Like, think about it. You make your own stadium. You make your own arena. That's yours. That's your home arena for your team. You know, that would be, you know, like you said, that will keep the players in more because that's something that they created. That's something they wanted.
And I mean, I always hear people complain about EA because it's basically, you're basically buying the same game as last year, just with an updated roster.
Yeah.
So why not add new features?
And maybe a added move or two. You know.
Tell me how you really feel about EA Sports, David.
Well,
we don't have time, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much on that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the EA games. It's just they are the same ones over and over, just with maybe, like you said, an updated roster or maybe an updated physics engine, you know, to make the game more realistic. That's about it.
I mean, okay, so let's throw this out there. I mean, we're deviating. That's whatever. I don't give a shit. We both love Bush Hockey League.
Yes.
How much of that is because of the look of the game? I love playing in those arenas in that game.
Exactly, because it's old school arenas. It's like going to like something out of the 70s. It's literally what it looks like.
Each arena is completely unique. They don't look. Neither one looks the same as the other one. It has its own personality. It fits that team, and they look cool on this. Like when they do that preview before the game, I don't skip it. I freaking watch it.
No. Yeah, the fighting sequence in it.
Yeah,
that's fun.
I mean,
I enjoy playing that game.
Look, the gameplay is sluggish.
Yeah, it is sluggish, but it's still fun.
It's still fun, but there's a lot of other things beyond the gameplay that make the game fun. And
like the names.
Dude, as soon as I saw that there was a team based in Pottsville in the game, I'm like, well, I gotta buy it.
And you know what? When you told me that, I was like, what? Oh, really? Download, buy. You know, I was like, oh, here
there's
we are.
A team in this game, David, from Pottsville, and it's based on Yingling.
Really?
What? No shit.
Okay, go to download. Done. The fact that
I got my $10 and beyond out of it, so.
Oh yeah, and the fact that to win the championship, you gotta like basically beat the crap out of the other team to win.
I'm still stuck on that because I'll get a string of.
Yeah, in this game,
like 5 fights, and then that 6th one just kills me.
You know, and the thing is, though, with this game, to win the overall championship, you could win the game by goals, whatever. You'll still lose the game because you have
to keep replaying the game.
You did not do what the task was to win the game. So if you win the game by goals, they qualify that as a loss. You have to beat the other team in submission, basically. I think it took me a good amount of times to do that.
I did it a few times in one night, and I think by like game 5, I'm like, I'm done. If I don't beat it this time, I'm taking a break, and I just haven't gone back to play it because I don't want to deal with that one fight where like my guy gets hit one time and he's out, and it's like, come on.
Yep, and you got to start all over again.
It's not as good as Hit's fight system. I'll say that.
No. Still, it's fun though.
It is.
It is fun.
And speaking of fun, let's get to our last one. Base
Wars. Oh, I loved this game. I mean, it's just robots playing baseball. Literally a cannon for an arm. Literally. And what was always great about this is when you had a play at a base, you literally fought. you literally fought for the base. Like it'll go into a fight action sequence, and you fought for the base. And if you lose, you're out. You win, you got the base. Yeah, that was the best part about it.
So this is the one I probably played the least. So I'm glad that you have really fond memories of this one.
I think I played this the most. Next to RBI Baseball, I think this was the next in line for the most. Oh, I played this all the time. And yeah, and basically your team, if the more you fought in the wars for the base, you could lose the game because you basically either ran out of, too much damage or I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia here, trying to remember all the rules behind it, because it's been so long. If your team loses 3 robots in a game, the game's over.
Konami was really cool because they had this game and then they had a football game. I think the football game was first. But it was really cool that they did these regular sports games with robots. It was an interesting concept.
It was. I mean, I thought it was neat. It was fun. Especially like I said, you had a pitcher with a cannon of an arm. Literally. Even on the cover, it shows the pitcher shooting a ball out of his arm.
I got to tell you, I was always a fan of the one that it was like a unicycle robot. It was like a motor. Mm-hmm. It was a motorcycle robot, but it only had one wheel. Yep. I always thought that was cool.
That one, they had like a hover. They had like a tank robot. That one, like I said, that was probably next in line between that and RBI Baseball. I played the most between them two. That one was fun.
I think they need to bring some of this stuff back.
Could you do it though? Because I mean, playing these games is a nostalgia for it because of the era that it's in. I mean, if you go and remake a game like this, or remake a game with the modern graphics that were highly played back in the day, will it get the same concept? Because think of this for a second. Think of this for a second. I'm going to go hockey here, of course. Blaze of Steel.
Okay.
They remade the game.
In 99.
They remade it, and it was not that good. I bought it thinking, Blaze of Steel, yes, perfect. I love this thing, modern look, but I just couldn't play it. I could not get into it. I could not get into the game. And if you do with that though, like if you bring in the modern spin on, let's say, Base Wars or something like that, will that actually bring the people who used to play that game to buy it?
Well, one, I don't think it would be. It isn't something that needs to be released in stores. It should be a digital download that you can buy on.
I was going to say that's everything anymore.
PlayStation Network or whatever the Xbox store is, your Nintendo shop. 2, it comes down to the developers' care in the game. Going back to Busch Hockey League, we love that game in spite of its sluggish gameplay because you can tell a lot of care and love went into that game. When a few years ago, when NBA Jam came back, it got really good reviews because it was faithful to the original game, unlike the later versions that came out in the late 90s that Acclaim did that were not faithful to the original game. It's all about the developer and how much they understand the audience the game is for. I absolutely do believe that you could make a game that is called Blades of Steel that could be updated and made faithfully to the audience that wants that game. And it will sell to that audience. It doesn't need to be a $50 game. It can be a $20 or $10 game, and it will still sell to the people who want to play it. I mean, they remade Double Dragon a few years ago, and it did well.
I guess it's
That's
all
not a
depending on the
sports
game.
game.
No, but I think it's all depending on the game, of course. I mean, and the Blaze of Steel I was talking about was the one they remade in 2000. For the
I remember they had a
PlayStation.
99 one.
They did have a 99 one for the Super Nintendo and the Game Boy Color.
Super Nintendo in 99?
Or not Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, sorry.
Let's go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm still always mixed with old school sports games, like from that era coming into this. I'm always hesitant just because you don't want to give your hopes up on it.
No, you don't. But I mean, I got the re-release of I got the Tecmo Bowl HD or whatever it was back in 2012, and it was very faithful to the original games, but it was updated and it looked good. And that proved that you can do a modern 3D football game that plays like Tecmo Bowl.
No, Tecmo Bowl was always a fun one to play too. Which that's another episode, I guess. Since we did baseball this one.
We can do that when football starts. We can do football video games from the 8-bit era. All right.
So that's the end of the second half. We made it.
I don't want to go down this road, but it dawned on me I forgot to add bases loaded, which I know a lot of people love, and that was a big deal back then.
Oh, I forgot about bases loaded.
I did too.
I forgot all about bases loaded.
That one was cool because you could alter the height of your swing in the game.
I completely forgot about that one.
It's not one of my favorites, but it has a very cool on-screen presentation for 8-bit. That's how I'll leave it. We could.
The initial release was we could. Original release was Japan was 87. North America was 88.
Jalico was the brand for that one. I mean, we could sit and talk any video game for hours.
We could.
Because we have had lengthy debates about Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. It's because we're not going to go down this road, but David is a very diehard fan of Mortal Kombat. I'm a very diehard fan of Street Fighter.
It makes for an interesting conversation.
I'll play. I mean, look, I'll play any fighting game. You know that.
Yeah,
those are probably my favorite video games to play. Which there's a new Street Fighter coming out, and I might have to get it. You laugh, but I mean, there was a period of time I think in 1 week we played the newest Mortal Kombat, the newest Tekken, the newest Virtua Fighter, and whatever the newest Street Fighter was at that time. Like, we played all of them in one weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, we have.
We could do a separate show on video games. That's what we're learning right now, if you're still listening.
Yeah, we could.
These guys need a video game show. That's what they need. All right. Well, with that, thank you for joining us for episode 66 of the Not Another Sports Podcast. You can find us online at our Linktree account. It is always in the description of the episode. You can go to our social media sites. You can find us on YouTube, which also airs our show if you want to look at our ugly mugs and my wrestling belts at the beginning of the first half. You can watch us on YouTube. Also, the Not Another Sports Podcast is available for stream or download at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Pandora.
Everywhere.
If you have it, we're there. Don't forget to check out our creator, our Teespring account under our Linktree account. Go to fansidea.com, use the code NASPOD at checkout. David is wearing a very nice Fans Idea jersey. I got a T-shirt from them on. And we also have a ballsy affiliate code. If you are into grooming yourself, have at it. We'll leave it at that. Dude, it's after midnight. I'm doing the best I can. With that, my name's Jason.
I'm David.
We'll talk with you next time.
Have a good one.